Here's Poops, it's PENTAX Pete here. Look, I've got my hat which says PENTAX Pete on it. Because I'm going to talk about a PENTAX. Yeah. Would you believe it? Well, the PENTAX I'm going to show you today is this little beauty. The PENTAX 17, newly released film camera, would you believe? Good old film. Film is not dead, remember. No, it's just sort of struggling. This is the famous PENTAX 17 and it's a half frame, which means you get double the amount of pictures on your roll. Because film's so expensive, well, I've got plenty in the fridge, all out of date. Look, there's the little shape of the half frame. There. It's a little tiny little oblong. That's half the size of a 35mm. So everything you take, holding the camera this way, it's portrait way, it's vertical. If you want a landscape one, you've got to hold the camera like that, so that the little half frame is landscape shape, you see. I've made some mistakes doing that. I've taken some pictures and there's been a blob in the corner. Well, I don't know whether I've got a finger of this cap hanging over. It may have been like that, hanging over. I've got a black blob in some. Well, so the other thing is, I'm not going to show you absolutely all the controls because there's about 20 dozen on YouTube explaining all the little knobs and whistles of the PENTAX 17 in detail. Not going to do that. I'll show you my findings a bit different. The first thing is, it doesn't have any DX coding. So when you put film in, you can rate it what you want, which is very good for me because I use a load of out-of-date film. And the other thing is, it's very easy to get extra frames on the film. So we'll load it with a film. Look, I've got an ancient Kodachrome 25. That's a museum piece now, because it's the last Kodachrome was done in 2010, so you can't use that anymore. So we'll stick the Kodachrome 25 in there. So we pull up the rewind knob. You have to pull out the film till you get to the little red line. Now it's slightly over. 1 minute. Do it all correct. I'll wind it back a fraction. If I wind it back into the cassette, well, we're in trouble. There. Then make certain by pressing your thumb that you can feel it's on a little sprocket hole inside the camera there. Yes? You close the back of the camera. Now you've got to set the ISO or ASA of the camera of the film that you're wanting, and that's done with a little index here on the ASA dial, which is around there, and you change it by pressing this little knob here. You can change that ISO to whatever you want. Now it only goes to 50, so Kodachrome 25, and the film that I used was rated 25 ASA. So that's the black and white film I'm going to show you. It only goes to 50. So what did I do? Well, next to it is the little plus and minus exposure compensation dial. So what I did, I dialed in a couple of clicks of plus exposure compensation like that. That means you're actually giving a 50 ASA film a bit more. And I found for the black and white film I've used, which is this one, Agfapan 25 Professional. It's very old, but it's been in the fridge for years and it works. This was dated 1991 and it still works. It's very, very fine grained film, so I thought, well, it's tiny little negatives. You've got to give it a chance to show what it can do with a very fine grained film and delicate negatives. So I loaded it with that. And I used a little bit of exposure compensation to get it to read 32 ASA. Although it says 25 on the box, with the developer I used, which is a 2-bath formula, bath A and B, and I gave it 3 minutes in each bath, that came out perfectly at 32 ASA. So we got the film loaded, and then it says switch it on. So there's a little on and off switch here. Switch it on until it says, does it say on? Got your right glass. No, it says off now. That says on. So we stick it to P the program, Yeah, on the little dial. Take the lens cap off, otherwise the shutter will remain open. Then you can fire it. Oh, having wound it on, that's it. Yeah, it's very, very quiet. It's going, and the rewind knob here, that is moving. Yes, look, all correctly loaded. I'm just photographing the floor, but it doesn't matter because the film's so good. Okay. Now, if you want to use film flash, which I did, a lot of film flash, you take it off P for program, and you put it to the orange mark P of the dial here. Now, when you fire that, the flash will automatically go. So I'm not going to fire it out of the camera. Oh, there's a little flash, tiny little flash. It's very, very small and very, very weak. So it's not going. Oh, because I didn't wind it on. There we are. Got to remember, there's no automatic winder. You've got to remember to wind it on like the good old days, folks. And I've got lazy. I've been using auto wind cameras a lot. Look, there, that's flashing every time. There's also another setting called if you want the flash to be, the shutter speed to be slow. But the trouble is, you don't know what the camera is going to do. There's no readout in the viewfinder what aperture and shutter speed is going to give you. So I thought, well, what's the fastest shutter speed? So I had a look at the book that my friend who loaned me the camera gave me, PENTAX 17 manual. It's not mentioned. There's no technical details. A load of languages, in Russian and Yiddish if you want. But in the English bit, there's no technical details. So it mentioned the Ricoh website. So I went to there, and I dialed up PENTAX 17 manual. It came up all PDF file, one of these PDF things. And I scrolled down. There's technical details in there. So I contacted my friend who loaned me the camera. He said, yes, this is a very early instruction book, and load of things were left out because that was an early production model, an early book. In the later books, it would tell you the fastest shutter speed you can get on that is a 350th of a second. That's the fastest, but it doesn't tell you what the slowest speed is. You don't know what it does. Now, as an advanced photographer, I want to know what's happening with my cameras. I want to know what's happening, yes, but for the people this is designed for, the happy-go-lucky phone shooters who want to try film, they're probably not worried so long as it clicks and takes some sort of picture, but the price of it, oh, my wife nearly fainted when she found out the price. And it's all polycarbonate construction. And I couldn't see much metal in it at all. It's all polycarbonate, but it's strong because polycarbonate is strong material now, and it's very, very light. And this will fit with the lens cap on. Don't get your fingers on the lens cap because I've got to return this. That fits in the pocket of my photographer's jacket like that. Zip it across, zip, so that it don't fall out. Look. Got my Kodak sign on, my photographer's jacket, see? Fits in the pocket, lovely. Lovely jubbly. That's what I've been using like that. So what happens when you're taking your pictures and it says wind on till number 1 appears in a little window. But don't wind on till number 1 appears, only wind it on and fire it once. Then you'll find you'll get extra frames. Out of a 24 shot, instead of 48 pictures, you'll get at least 51 pictures. But I haven't used it all, a whole film, I cut it. That's another beauty of this camera. Because if you want to cut the film, it's very easy to cut. So we'll just fire it off once more. Yeah, I'll fire it off once more. It's very easy to cut. So put the lens cap on again. Because now you do this in the changing bag, remember? Go in the dark, switch it off. Oh, you press in the rewind button here underneath. Press that in, like that. It stays in. With my fingernail. Press that in. And in the dark, you open the back. Fine with your fingernails if you've got any. Open the back, and there's your film across the back. Oh, I need some scissors. I didn't bring my scissors. Never mind. What you do, you hold that, you pull up this, like that. You pull up, get your fingers across there. You make certain you put your finger under there. With your scissors, you just cut across there like that. Now it doesn't have a focal plane shutter, because the shutter is more or less in the lens, so you can't damage the shutter. You just cut across like that, and then with it released, you pull out the used bit like that. Pretend it's cut. Then you put that used bit into your developing tank and process up your film. It makes it extremely easy for messing about with short lengths of film. Well, I used, first of all, as I showed you, the black and white. So we'll show you some black and white results. And I don't have a posh light box a lot of other YouTubers have got. I'm afraid my YouTube is very rudimentary. I have to do it all in one go because I don't know how to edit either. But there's some little half frame negatives against the white. That is the Agfa 25 developed in a 2-bath developer. 3 minutes in bath A and B, and then acid stop bath and wash, etc. Bit of rock wetting agent. Then I tried it for colour. The colour I chose was a fine grain, out of date to use, Tudor. Right, this Tudor was years and years ago, in the 1990s and that early 2000s. It's actually Fuji Superior under another name, and it was cheaper. Now this was given to my boy years ago. It's dated 7th, that's July 2005. But we had 80 cassettes of this 24-shot Tudor. And it's still good. It's been in the refrigerator for years. So, but instead of 100, I've downrated it to 80. And it gives good results, rated 80. Now, how do I do it? Well, you press the button here, turn that till it says 100 on your little dial here. So it says 100. And then you use a little bit of exposure compensation on the exposure compensation here, a little bit of plus, just one notch, and that will make it 80 ASA. Then I processed it in C41, and I've got some colour negatives. They're lovely jubbly. I went on a boat trip on the River Lee, on a coach trip. I took some on the boat trip. I did some close-ups of flowers. That's a strip of colour negatives from Tudor 100. See, it's not the whole film. I've cut it, and I showed you. Right, there you are. That's half frame negatives on Tudor 100, which is dated 2005, and they came out very accurately exposed. But I found every really close-up one I took with this camera was out of focus. Now, I'm very careful with getting the distance. With the PENTAX 17, you can either use the guess things at the top here with a little picture, so mountain for distance, and for close-up you've got a flower, but you don't know how close that is unless you go underneath here, and it's got meters and feet measurements. So I didn't use the little pictures at the top, I used the meters and feet. So for really close up, I set it to 0.25 of a metre. So I turn in the little thing until the little white index went to 2.25, which is 1/4 of a metre, which is 25 centimetres. I took some at 25 centimetres. That was way out of focus. But when I took some at about half a metre, I know, one metre away or something like that, it wasn't too bad. They were sharp, but the very close-up ones, they were all out. Now the other thing is, in the viewfinder here, you have to allow for parallax problems because the viewfinder is above the lens. It's not a single lens reflex camera. The viewfinder is above the lens, so as you're coming close, the lens photographs something a bit lower than what you're seeing in the viewfinder. So in order to account for that, you've got to tilt down a little bit, and there's a little tiny viewfinder oblong in here, a smaller one, and you put the top of that to the top of your subject, and that is for close-up view. Now you've got to look carefully, squint carefully to find the little frames. They're not easy to see. If you get any bright light in it, you can't see the little blight. Can't see the little blighters. There's some little orange frames in here, and in order to do the close-up one, you've got to find the top of that small frame and put it to the top of your subject, and then you don't cut the top of the subject off. That's allowing for parallax, and similar that way if you're doing a landscape shape. So it's a fixed focal length lens. It's slightly wide angle. It's a 25mm 3.5 lens. It's probably a 4-element triplet or something like that. Now in the settings on this shutter dial here, or the exposure dial, you've got one called bokeh. Now bokeh is a Japanese thing which has come to the fore lately. It means the quality of your outer focus areas of the camera, of the picture. Now are they blobby or are they swirly like the Russian lenses? You get this weird bokeh. Anyway, the bokeh means it's supposed to set the aperture to 3.5 all the time, so it's maximum aperture, right? So I took a picture using maximum aperture, then I took one just using the P setting for a program, and you don't know what aperture it sets. But I took a picture of our pub, or one of our pubs in the high street, looking at the bricks. And I've done a print. I've scanned the black and white negative. I've done a print. It's a bit light the way it's printed, but there's a picture, and these are all a picture. That's all the little brickwork. It's all resolved at 3.5. Now the one which is on ordinary program, I couldn't see any difference at all. This is the one which was set to bokeh, which is supposed to be full aperture, and sometimes you're supposed to find your full aperture ones are not as sharp. But this resolved all the bricks there. Then how about the exposure overall? Well, we don't know how it measures. Is it a spot program? Is it a matrix, or is it centre weighted? You don't know. There's no information about it. It measured that one. It's through a archway of our ruins in the Brentwood High Street, and it gave quite a good exposure because that's very black, dark black. This is printed a bit lighter than the actual scan negative, and there's some detail in there, but that's a bit burnt out when on the viewing of the video. It's a bit all burnt out, but there's actual detail in the print there, and this was not black, absolutely black. It's got a lot of detail, and the exposure of that was very, very accurate. And then that was set to just slightly short of the infinity mark on the setting of the focus. That was that. Then what about the flash? Well, the flash I've used for pictures in a graveyard where it's very dark, and this one with very dim light in the graveyard, but with the flash. And that's set to P program with the flash on the orange setting. The flash went off, and that is well exposed, but that's about 9 feet away or 3 meters away. I would say the flash doesn't carry any further than that. It's no use trying to photograph a stage of your grandchild dancing on the stage 100 foot away or 50 feet away with a flash. It's just not powerful enough, that tiny little flash. Don't waste your effort trying to get that flash to go that distance. It won't. It's not powerful enough. It's okay for this and for close-up film work. That's quite good. Now the colour, I had massive trouble with my printer. I've tried and tried. I had to give up in the end, but I've done one here of pictures on River Lee, and this one came out dreadfully magenta. Now I've done 2 of the negatives, you see, scanned 2 of the negatives together. Then I changed the colour. I whacked in a load of green to kill the magenta, and it came out that colour, more cyan. So there's something wrong with my printer. They are two half-frame negatives printed on an A4 sheet. So that's what I found. So the little PENTAX 17 compared with me ME Super, compared with my PENTAX, I don't want to give myself another hernia, I've got two already. Compared with me PENTAX 6x7. There we are. Whoa! Oh my God, Father, the PENTAX, that's what you call a camera. It weighs a ton. It takes nice snaps, but God blimey, it never so heavy. There you go, that's PENTAX 17 against me PENTAX 6x7 Mark II. Oh dear. Well, I've had some fun using it, and I'm going to try it. Next, I'm going to try it with a faster film, because that Agfa 25 is no longer available. So you can get 50 ASA black and white Ilford Pan F, but anything like that you're not available, discontinued. So you would start putting faster film in. If you put a Tri-X or HP5 Plus, you want to see how the grain comes out on that tiny little half frame. I bet it's grain like golf balls, but we'll see. That's going to be my next test. But in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this ramble about the famous or infamous PENTAX 17, folks. Okay, thank you for watching, and don't forget, buy me a coffee. Thank you very much, folks.